Hi, grade fives. Today we're going to be looking at zeros in division. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a quick review of a sample question that we did yesterday. So the question was 4 and 38/100ths divided by 2. So when we are dividing with a decimal, remember there's not a whole lot of a difference between dividing with a decimal or not having the decimal, but the only difference really is that we need to, in our quotient, pop the decimal straight up above where it was in the dividend, and so it needs to go directly above in our quotient. And then I can divide like I normally would. So now I can say, how many times does 2 fit into 4? 2 fits into 4 2 times. And then I go on to my next step, multiply. 2 times 2 equals 4, and then I subtract. 4 minus 4 equals 0. All right, so now after subtracting, I bring down, and I have a 3, and then I have to repeat all over again. So remember, the steps of division were divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. So repeat, now I'm dividing again. How many times does 2 fit into 3? 2 goes into 3 one time. Now I multiply 1 times 2, that equals 2. I subtract, and I'm left with a 1. Now I have to see if there's anything left to bring down, and there is. And so I bring down that 8. And then I repeat again. Now I have 18 divided by 2. How many times does 2 go into 18? 9 times. 9 times 2 equals 18, and so I don't have a remainder. 18 minus 18 equals 0. So the answer is 2 and 19/100ths. So today we're going to see that there are going to be zeros in our quotient often when we're dividing with decimals, but you'll also see the zeros in the dividend as well. So we're going to do some examples of those together. So the first example I want to do is 234 thousandths, and we're going to divide that by 9. So here you can see we have a 0 in our dividend. So what do I do with this decimal? Well, I pop it directly above. So now, can 9 fit into 0? Well, no, 9 goes into 0 0 times, and so we write a 0 before the decimal. Now, does 9 go into 2? This is where it gets a little different. So before we would kind of put an X if it didn't fit in. But now, because we have a decimal, we need to place a 0 here to hold the place value. And so 9 goes into 0 0 times, 9 goes into 2 also 0 times. And so I need to put a 0 above there. Now 9 into 23, does 9 go into 23? Yes, it does. It goes twice. 2 times 9 equals 18. So now I subtract like normal. 23 minus 18 equals 5. After subtracting, I bring down, and I have my 4. How many times does 9 fit into 54? It fits in 6 times. 6 times 9 equals 54. And do I have a remainder? No. And that's really important. That's really good when we are dividing with decimals, that we don't have a remainder at the end. But I'm going to show you an example of a question now where there is a remainder at the end. And we're going to see that we have to do something further to solve it if there is a remainder. And so let's look at a sample question like that. So let's say we have 86 and 85/100ths divided by 25. All right, so a little bit tricky here. How many times does 25 fit into 86? If we know kind of money, counting by money, we know 25 cents, 2 quarters is 50 cents, 3 quarters is 75 cents. And so we could say that 25 fits into 86 3 times. And then we can say 3 times 25 equals 75. And we forgot something important when you have the decimal here in the dividend, that we put it up here in our quotient. Okay, so now I subtract. So 86 minus 75. 6 minus 5 equals 1. 8 minus 7 equals 11. So how many times is 25? Well, we need to bring down next. And so we bring down that 8. So how many times does 25 fit into 118? So again, thinking of quarters, money, 4 quarters equals 100 cents or a dollar. That's less than 118. And so we know that 25 fits into 118 4 times. So what is 25 times 4? 25 times 4 equals 100. Then we have 8 minus 0 equals 8. 1 minus 0 equals 1. So we now have an 18 there. Okay, so I can bring down again all the way here to the 18. And we have 185 now. So how many times does 25 fit into 185? So again, let's count by 25s. 25, 50, 75, 100. Then we go again. 125, 150, 175. So that was 7 times. So what is 25 times 7? That was 175. All right, so we have a remainder here. And we don't want a remainder when we are dealing with decimals. So if we can get away with not having a remainder, then it's good that we don't have one. So what we actually have to do then is we have to add one more 0 to the dividend here and stretch out our line here. So if I add a 0 here, I can continue to divide. And I can keep adding zeros. If I wanted to, I could add really as many zeros as I want and keep bringing them all down because it doesn't change the value. 85 hundredths is the same as 850 thousandths. So after a decimal, when you add a 0 to the end, it actually doesn't change the value of that decimal, remember. So now I can bring down one more 0 here. And now I have 100. And how many times does 25 fit into 100? 25 fits into 100 4 times. And 4 times 25 equals 100. And if we subtract that, we are left with a 0. So there's no remainder now, and that's a good thing. So our answer is 3 and 474 thousandths. And so notice how I added that 0 so that I could keep on dividing. And so you may have to do that today in your work. And we're going to look at one more final question with zeros. And this time we're going to have a few zeros in our dividend. So what if I have a question like this? 6 thousandths divided by 4. So how can I solve something like this? Well, remember I can put that decimal up top here right away. And then all I have to think about here is how many times does 4 fit into 0? Well, that's 0 times. 4 fits into 0, 0 times. 4 fits into 0, 0 times. And then 4 fits into 6 1 time. All right, so now 1 times 4 equals 4. I subtract, and I'm left with a 2. So now I have a remainder 2. But remember, do I want a remainder if I'm working with decimals? Not really, I don't. So let's get rid of that remainder. And what do I have to do instead? How can I continue to solve this problem? Well, I need to add a 0 in my dividend, and then I can bring that 0 down. And how many times does 4 fit into 20? If you know your timetables well, 4 fits into 25 times. And 5 times 4 is 20. And so now we have no remainder, and that's ideal. That's what we want to go for. And so our answer then is 15 10,000ths. So don't forget, if you have a remainder, add a 0 to your dividend, and you can keep on dividing. Hope you are doing well. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you have a great day.